Hello and welcome to ART's exclusive legal and human rights program, Project Justice. I am Utaba Umoran. Nigeria has launched a bid to be re-elected into the 47th-seat United Nations Human Rights Council with headquarters in Geneva. The re-election bid was launched as the country's current term running from 2015 to 2017 is set to expire. Nigeria had previously served between 2007 and 2009 and 2010 to 2012. But what is in this for Nigeria and Nigerians, you might ask? Well, for one, membership of the World Human Rights Council places greater responsibility on member states to act responsibly by demanding and advocating for the protection of human rights globally. Of course, you cannot be demanding for accountability on human rights from others without upholding the highest standards of human rights yourself. Well, that is where any country seeking election into the council must demonstrate it qualifies to be elected. Now, how did Nigeria fare in the period between 2015 till 2017? The International Standard of Human Rights and the Amnesty International has published the scorecards of each of the states seeking election or re-election into the Human Rights Council. It argues that if the council is to be taken seriously as the legitimate global rights body, it is essential for member states to undertake and uphold the highest human rights standards and to cooperate fully with the Council as required in Resolution 60251. Now, the reviewers then gave a scorecard of each of the states seeking election. I checked through the scorecard rating of Nigeria as published by the ISHC. In terms of cooperation with Human Rights Council and mechanism, Nigeria was scored 2 out of 7. Well, in terms of support for civil societies and prevention of reprisals, it scored 1 out of 3. On treaty ratification, 1 out of 2. Nigeria, however, had a positive score for having a national human rights institution in compliance with the Paris Principles, but a negative score on sponsorship of both Council and General Assembly resolutions on national human rights institutions. World reports on countries published by Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch also provide effective review tools for assessment. However, previous elections have shown in more than one that political considerations are the major determinant in election of members. That's why the ISCR has urged states to treat human rights as paramount rather than engage in vote trading or privileging political and economic considerations over human rights. The question for many was that, what about the pledges your country made in the last bid? Have they fulfilled them? But as usual, politics is always a factor anyway, anytime. Now, talking about human rights and freedoms in Nigeria, last week, we talked to civil rights lawyer Mike Ozekome on trending issues. We now bring you the concluding part of that interview. Are you saying that the hard stance posture of the present administration to deal with some of the issues, for instance, the agitations we are seeing now, wouldn't work because it doesn't address the issues of justice?
It took Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, SAN, with the engagement of the Minister of State, Petroleum, Dr. Ibe Kachiku, and Pandev, the Niger Delta elders, to look for a diplomatic solution. So Oshibanjo involved himself in shuttle diplomacy, which was popularized by former American Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. He was hopping and flying from Port Harcourt to Yenagoa, from Baramatu to Warri, from Nembe to Bayelsa. And before you could say Mike Ozekome, the agitation started dying down. They even now came out and said, okay, we are going to have a ceasefire. Do you know why? People want to be respected. No one wants to feel that he's treated as trash, as a dustbin, or as human excrement. Everybody wants to feel that he has been accorded some modicum of respect. Words alone can stop these agitations. That was why I look forward to the presidential brokers on October 1. But unfortunately, it fell far short of what Nigerians expected. It was the most disappointing because it was, again, the same anger, the same brute force, diplomacy that was being unleashed. And that cannot stop it, because you do not stop an ailment as serious as leprosy by treating it with a drug meant for eczema, and then you bandage it over. Sooner than later, they will explode and the oozing will smell more. We cannot pretend to be like the chichi dodo bird envisaged by Ayikwe Ama in his beautiful classical work, The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. Chichi dodo bird hates human excrement, human feces, with all his heart. But his food, his delicacy, is maggots that wriggle out of decaying human feces. So it's a way of saying you don't like beans. You don't want to hear about beans. But your best food is sakara ball and moi moi that are byproducts of beans. You cannot say you do not like the heat, but the place you always want to stay in is inside the kitchen. You tell people, oh, I don't want to be wet, but you want to jump into the river. You cannot play Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark. You cannot argue that 6 is different from half a dozen. That is what I see this government doing. And it is unrealistic.
But the president also, in that speech which you referred to, cited constitutional institutions, which he says are channels of addressing some of these grievances. He cited the National Assembly.
It is not true. It is not true. The National Assembly is itself a creation of the Constitution. Right? The National Assembly cannot create a constitution. The best it can do under Section 9 of the Constitution is to amend. That's why some of us have been calling for a totally brand new constitution that is autochthonous, homegrown, emanating from the people. It's a constitution that gives birth to a National Assembly. The National Assembly does not give birth to a constitution. When the Americans met in 1786 in Philadelphia, they went there as autonomous confederal governments. They were operating confederation. They didn't have a center, but they went to Philadelphia in 1786 saying, let us have a more perfect union. But by the time they were leaving that conference, they had agreed upon federalism. And federalism is a system which allows each unit, each federating unit, to be on its own, have its own independence as it were, tap on its own resources, and pay taxes to a government at the center. So the National Assembly or the Council of States cannot stop agitation of a people, because they themselves are products of the inequity
I guess
we are talking about.
I guess the point of what he was saying was, yes, these agitations are about the structure of the system. The structure cannot be changed without using a constitutional mechanism of the National Assembly to change it.
The National Assembly, all it can do, it can promulgate a law strictly on the issue of self-determination or on the issue of having a new constitution into which Nigerians will buy into. Because the present constitution is a fraud. It is actually Decree number 24 of 1999.
Should we seriously be looking at also including a clause for a referendum in the Nigerian Constitution?
Of course, yes. There must be a clause for referendum, because a referendum or plebiscite shows that the people have bought in. The process of a constitution is even more important than the contents of that constitution. Aside the old Midwest region that was carved out of Western region on the 9th of August, 1963, through a popular referendum of the people. Show me since 1897, when one young British journalist, Miss Flora Louisa Shaw, gave the name Nigeria to Nigeria after Niger area. The young lady was later to marry Captain Lord Lugard, the man who on the 1st of January 1914 coupled together the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate to found the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Since 1897, we have never really had a constitution apart from that of Midwest region that I just mentioned that Nigerians actually bought into. In spite of all the constitutional conferences we had in 1957, the Willings Commission report.
How about the 1963 Constitution?
The 1963 Constitution was even better because it was a product or more or less an elongation of the 1960 flag independence constitution. But you find that all constitutions from the 1922 Clifford Constitution, 1946 Arthur Richards Constitution, 1951 Macpherson Constitution, 1954 Littleton Constitution, 1960 Independence Constitution, 1963 Republican Constitution, 1979 Obasanjo Constitution, 1989 unused, untested IBB Constitution, 1995 unused, untested Abacha Constitution, and then the new Constitution we are using, 1993, which is actually Decree number 24 of 1999, promulgated by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, and its 28 members of the Provisional Ruling Council, PRC, that was later given to Justice Nicky Toby, God bless his soul, to couple together. Nigerians are still yearning for a constitution that is their own, that they can buy into through a referendum, so that they can say, this is our product, so that the preamble can genuinely say, unlike the present preamble, which says, we the people of Nigeria do hereby make and give to ourselves the following constitution. It is not true. So the present constitution is a fraud. National Assembly itself, Council of States, the entire government apparatchik and apparatus, they are all products of a constitutional fraud. So we need to go back to the basis. Pre-January 1, 1966 military purge, when Nigeria operated through federalism, where produce, where resources were taken by the 4 regions up to 50%, whilst 50% tax was, 20% tax was paid to the government of Tafawa Balewa at the center, and 30% was shared by all the regions, including the region that had already taken 50%.
Well, let's look at the judiciary as well. Currently, the present Chief Justice of Nigeria has embarked upon a series of reforms, one of which is the designation of special courts to handle corruption cases. How far do you see that going in ensuring that cases are fast-tracked, delays are removed?
Well, it's done very well in terms of that suggestion, but I do not see it having much more impact on the system, because it will still be same. What you have just done is to designate some judges just to tackle corruption cases. That does not in any way quicken corruption cases more than it would ordinarily do. Our system of criminal justice is accusatorial. It is not inquisitorial. The Anglo-Saxon model is accusatorial, meaning that you have to prove the guilt of a person beyond reasonable doubt. It's not a person that should prove his innocence, which is the French model that is inquisitorial. So they must still have to go through the whole hog. If you have 50 counts, you must prove each count that someone has committed an offense. And also, if you look at the law of diminishing returns and the principle of Adam Smith, division of labor, you will see that, yes, when you handle the same cases over and over again, it can lead to expertise. But it also brings about monotony when you tell one judge to begin to handle the same cases from every day of his life. So it could also lead to different challenges. He has done very well in that regard. Let us test it and see how it works. But I am not comfortable about the composition. For example, all the former presidents of NBA that included, they are distinguished fellow Sikhs. They are all my friends, personal friends, and people of impeccable...
You mean the Trial Monitoring Committee?
Yeah, Trial Monitoring Committee, with people of impeccable credentials. But you see, you cannot tell a player to judge a player. You have to bring in an independent referee to referee a football match. But when you are making players themselves to begin to monitor their own colleagues when they themselves are having their own cases before the same judges. It's going to be a tall order for us to see a very transparent system. Let's look at it. Justice is rooted in confidence. If, for example, the committee comes and gives a pass mark to Judge A, I say, excellent, that judge has glowing credentials. And then you now check and discover in this day of ICT technology that one or two of the members of that committee actually have cases before that judge that has been praised to high heavens. Somebody will just say, why will you not praise him to high heavens when you are actually having cases before the judge? And if the same members also descend on a judge and lampoon him for being either corrupt or wasting time or being lazy, and they also have cases before that judge, other people will raise it and say, you see, it's because that lawyer lost a case before that judge 3 years ago, 4 years ago, last month. That is why they are saying that. So I think that the composition should be people who are not practitioners. For example, like retired judges and justices who do not have anything at stake but their honor, dignity, and integrity. Or maybe some professors from universities who do not go to court to practice. Because there are some professors who are also senior advocates who also practice, not those ones. Those who are just professors in the classroom, who will therefore not care whose ox is God. That is my own reservation about that committee. But like I said, it has nothing to do with the impeccable credentials, which are quite glittering and tall of these fellow silks.
You said something about the special court earlier. There's this school of thought that judges who handle more than one case, civil matters come up, election petition come up, and they have financial crimes cases in their dockets, makes it difficult for them to give priority to financial crimes cases. And what the Chief Justice of Nigeria is doing is to help that case have some priority. So that's
why I say we should give him kudos. I say let us try it out. As a matter of fact, in 2014, I did a memo which was accepted by the Law, Judiciary, and Legal Reforms Committee. And I was also the chairman of the subcommittee on the outcome of the national conference. And we did recommend the creation of special crimes courts. We also recommended creation of a special constitutional court. So I believe that is the right thing to do. Let us try it out so that judges will face only financial crimes matters alone. But like I said, it has its own adjunct or corollary challenges. But let us first try it and see how it works. I give this Chief Justice kudos. He's a man that is very foresighted, like Nostradamus, the man who saw tomorrow, like the oracle at Ileife, that gazes into the future to always pronounce the next or need to be. I think we should support him in his reforms. Judges today are the most monitored human beings on the Nigerian planet. Nobody monitors ministers, accusations against ministers, tons and trailer loads of petitions written against them pending before the Anti-Graft Commission. None of them has been looked into. The same with the legislature. Only the judiciary is always monitored and monitored and monitored. Whereas it is only the same judiciary that actually have a self-deodorizing mechanism through the National Judicial Council that suspend judges, remove judges, dismisses judges, demotes judges, warns judges, caution judges based on their performance on complaints about that. No other one has. And what we are seeing in the anti-corruption fight, why people like me have continuously said it is just a fight targeted at opposition and critical voices, is that once you decamp from PDP or Labour Party or ABGA or any other party to the APC, you become like Naaman the leper, who was dipped into River Jordan 7 times and he was cleansed of his leprosy. Once you cross over to the APC, you become cleansed of your political leprosy. Not only are the drums rolled out to embrace and welcome you, you are immediately given an appointment. That is why APC is the reverse side of the coin called PDP, from the highest level to the lowest level. We must fight corruption. I'm the first person who said 4 years ago that we must kill corruption before corruption kills us. And that corruption has become the 37th state of Nigeria as the most powerful and the wealthiest. But in fighting it, you must do it holistically. You must show that no one is above the law, and that all Nigerians, in spite of your gender, in spite of your political belief, in spite of your place of origin or religion, should be treated equally. Until that is done, then the war against corruption is still has not started.
Would you now say you're totally unsatisfied with how the government has handled key allegations of corruption involving very high officials? For instance, the reports against the former director of the NIA and the SGF.
Of course, I'm dissatisfied. Of course, I'm dissatisfied.
Just recently, we saw a latest allegation
of course,
the GMD of the NNPC.
Of course, I'm dissatisfied. I don't expect anything also from those allegations against the GMD. Oh, it will be conveniently swept under the carpet. We have not heard anything about Babachi Lawal, about the former NIA Director General, Ambassador Oke. Even when the Oshibanjo panel, the VP panel set up by the president himself, has indicted them, not only has a formal pronouncement not been made dismissing them, they have not even ordered EFCC to pick them up for trial. But it was members of the opposition. A mere rumor is enough for them to be picked up and harangued and heralded before the courts in handcuffs. You don't fight corruption Janus-faced. You know Janus-faced? Double-faced. There must be what you call enthronement of the rule of law. The rule of law, says Professor A.V. Dicey, means equality before the law. Everybody is equal before the law. No exception. Once you begin to make exceptions, once you begin to discriminate, then you have a problem of making people to buy into the anti-corruption project or to believe it. That's why many Nigerians don't believe it. They see it as an instrument of oppression, of just getting at opposition. Let the government, I always challenge the government, let them give an example. Let us see one minister. Even Obasanjo did it. He docked some of his ministers. Even under Jonathan, some ministers were docked. Some ministers were dismissed. Even based on mere allegation, which had not been proven in any court of law. This time, we are seeing a government that even protests its own, even defends its own. That was why my friend, Senator Shehu Sani, said that this government fights corruption in the system with sweet-smelling deodorants. I will add beautiful Sasarobia perfume. While fighting alleged corruption by the opposition with insecticide, herbicide, and all the powerful pesticides. You can't do it like that. And the international community is watching us. I was abroad up to last month, and they were asking me, how are you people fighting your corruption? I said, what do you mean? They said, we are seeing a lot of accusations against people in government. Why is your government not bringing them to book? I said, well, we are still waiting. They monitor everything. You can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time. But you cannot fool all the people all the time. And Nigerians are intelligent people. We are watching.
Chief Mike Ezekwueme, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Well, that's Project Justice for this week. Be sure to follow us on our various social media platforms. Until next week, on behalf of the entire team, I am Utuba Umoran. Thanks for staying with us.